Come on in. It's that time of the week where we talk about the biggest stories. Val Kilmer died earlier this week. I want to take a moment and sit with his legacy. The Oscar-winning film Flow is out on Crave, and the Minecraft movie is out, which, who asked for this? Not me. The group chat is here. Let's go. I'm Elamin Abdelmahmoud, and this is Commotion. Okay, we have a lot to get into today. We have an incredible group chat of culture critics here. Niko Stratis is here. Simonpillai is here. Sonya Ballantyne is here. Thank you all for being here. Hello. Welcome to you.
Hello.
Okay, listen. I want to start with Val Kilmer. I want to just to step right into it. Okay, I think maybe that's a good place for us to start. He died this week at the age of 65. Obviously, one of the biggest names in Hollywood in the 80s and 90s. He's kind of like, I think, one of those actors where people have a relationship with him in a specific role. Maybe Iceman in Top Gun or Batman in Batman Forever. Val Kilmer was diagnosed with throat cancer back in 2014. Made it hard for him to breathe, made it hard for him to speak. And a couple of years ago, when I saw Top Gun Maverick, you kind of saw him pop up for like this brief scene. And I want to play you guys a scene because so many people in the theater around me just were completely openly weeping. Let's hear that scene.
The Navy needs Maverick. The kid needs Maverick. That's why I fought for you. That's why you're still here. Thank you, Ice, for everything.
I do think it's a testament to like Tom Cruise's ability to act, that in that moment when he was saying thank you Ice for everything, he was really thanking Val Kilmer for his entire career, I think, in that moment. Rad, maybe I'll start with you. What do you remember about Val Kilmer's era as a leading man in Hollywood?
Well, I mean, I think I've been grappling with like how amazingly talented he is as a leading man and interesting. I mean, he's got all the ingredients of a leading man in terms of the looks, in terms of the talent. I mean, this is a Juilliard trained actor who could do anything, whether it's like outlandish comedy like Top Secret or carrying an Oliver Stone movie like The Doors, where he plays Jim Morrison. Yeah. But for me, like, I always like remember him for his wingman roles. To quote a Top Gun line, "You can always be my wingman," or "You can be my wingman anytime." Yeah. And for me, like, you know, that begins with him in Willow playing Mad Mardigan, the scoundrelly swashbuckler. Or to cite, like, you know, the movie I love him most for is where he is, I mean, such a film bro title, but Heat. I mean, Heat is an all-timer. And he's in there. An all-timer. And he's elbowing out space between these two hurricane actors, De Niro and Pacino. And he's just so cool. But beneath these kind of stone-cold expressions, there's such warmth and sadness. And so he just does so much with so little.
What I like about Val Kilmer's career is that, like, every time you ask someone what's your favorite Val Kilmer movie, they'll give you a different answer. Niko, what about you? What's your favorite? What movie stands out for you as a Val Kilmer performance?
You know, I think I was initially like, my heart is always like, say Heat when you're talking about Val Kilmer. It's like, but I knew that Rad was going to be on, and I was like, Rad's going to say Heat. Like, there's no way Rad's not going to say Heat.
Noted film bro Rad is going to say Heat.
Yeah. I loved him in Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. It's a movie I think about all the time. You know, Shane Black's directorial debut. It's like it's Robert Downey Jr. before he didn't have to have insurance to be in a movie anymore, and like I think it's maybe the best Robert Downey Jr. performance. But Val Kilmer in it as like a gay private detective in Gay Perry is incredible in that movie. And it was, you know, whenever you saw Val Kilmer on a marquee, you're like, okay, I will watch this, because look, if Val Kilmer's in a thing, I would watch it. I'm the perfect age to watch anything Val Kilmer is in. But him playing like kind of a stone cold gay man who is still like tough and everything else, you know, I loved that role for him, and it was such kind of a surprise. And it was just like such a delight to watch him in clearly having a good time in that movie.
I saw this interview with him also where he was asked about Top Gun, you know, and the question was, hey, on a scale of 1 being not at all and 10 being completely homoerotic, how homoerotic did you play, you know, the characters in Top Gun? And he was like, it was a 12. Like, it was clearly like way over the top, because that man knows exactly what he is doing. Sonya, last word to you on Val Kilmer. What about you? What stands out for you?
two roles specifically, Batman Forever and The Saint, because The Saint was one of like three movies my grandma owned, so I watched it like
I've never
a
seen The
million
Saint. Tell me about
times.
this.
And it was actually a pretty good movie. It's like about a spy, and one of my favorite things about The Saint and Val specifically in it is Val is like we all can agree that Val is a gorgeous human being, was a gorgeous human being, incredibly attractive. But I really love how vulnerable he is, and like I really love how manly he is at the same time, if that makes sense, because it's like I really love that mix of like what would be considered feminine beauty, but also like really intense masculinity. And so that's something I really like in The Saint. But I also really loved him in Batman Forever, just because each Batman has a specific part of the character they like to portray. And I think with Michael Keaton, it was more of like the rage and the demand for vengeance. But with Val, it was more of like a melancholy, like a sadness that he like. And it was a big choice, just because Batman Forever is not like a quiet movie. It's not a melancholy movie. And I was like, I remember watching it as a kid and being like, why is he playing it so small? And then I realized, oh right, because like he's grappling with the decision of whether or not he wants to continue to be Batman. And I really Batman Forever has been such an artistic influence on me, so it is something that I will go to my grave defending, and I'm glad that it's getting the reappraisal that it deserves, because I'm like, I think it gets lumped in too much with Batman and Robin, and I'm like, don't leave Val out of this. Like, and I used to have a collectible cornflakes Batman Forever box of cereal that had Val on it, and I was like, damn it, I wish I had kept it, but I lost it in my move.
Two things about that, but your comment that really struck me. One, I like the image of you just like as a teenager. Like you're like 12 years old. And you're like, why is Val playing this so small? Like I like the idea that that film literacy started that early. And then two, like when you mentioned this delicate mix of feminine beauty and masculinity, I think like they don't make him like that anymore is a sentence that people keep saying about Val Kilmer, and that really applies to that. And that like you don't get a lot of actors who are occupying that particular spectrum of how they want to show up. Val Kilmer died earlier this week. He was 65 years old. Tributes from other artists have been pouring in. Cher said, quote, "You were funny, crazy, pain in the ass, great friend." You can read more about Val Kilmer at cbc.ca/entertainment. All right, I want to shift gears and talk about this gorgeous animated film, Flow. It won Best Animated Feature at the Oscars, which is a really big deal because it was up against a bunch of heavyweight studios. There are no words in this movie, only sounds that the animals make. It's a movie about a flood that overtakes the earth, and then you get to follow a black cat trying to survive the flood, and then a bunch of other animals that the cat meets along the way. Rad, could you just like paint a picture with your words? Would you describe the animation style of Flow? What makes it unique?
I mean, it looks like a watercolor painting in motion, which is, I guess, like the way to describe a movie called Flow, right?
Are you a critic or a poet? Get out of here. All right, continue.
But yeah, and I think the big thing about this is like this is a movie with all these animals, but it's not trying to achieve some kind of photorealistic look for the animals. Like we're not counting the number of furs on the capybara here. Like, you know, it's so
Speak
much
for yourself, Val.
So, I mean, it's so much more impressionistic. And I mean, I think there's more detail in how light hits these characters rather than like, you know, recreating their physique and their characteristics. And I think there's like a simplicity here. And again, this movie finds a beauty in that simplicity, but that simplicity also helps it feel more realistic in the sense that this is not a movie about animals that are taking on human characteristics. This is a movie about animals that don't have any kind of grand plans or big character arcs. They just go with the flow and they're like chasing a dog or they're like, and then things are happening to them. Yeah, exactly. And yet it's just so compelling.
Everyone that I know who has seen it has like been like, I walked up and like I was weeping 10 minutes into the movie and I just kept weeping the whole time. Sonya, I know you've been trying to see it for weeks in Winnipeg, but the screenings kept on being sold out. How do you feel about the movie now you finally had a chance to see it?
Well, I really love the imagery of the whale, but that I have been such a, like, I wanted to be a marine biologist when I was a little girl. So, of course, like, the second the whale came out, I was like, And so I really love that imagery, specifically when they're traveling through like an old city. You see the whale breach, and I'm just like that. Like some of the imagery in the movie just like sat with me for a long time because I remember watching it, and like last night I was finally watching it on Crave, and I remember for a few minutes I was like, oh man, is this gonna be one of those European movies where nothing happens for 2 hours? And then I sat with it like because I am such a like the second art gets too artsy.
Yeah.
I start to get a little bit like, but then I was just really into the way the cat was expressing itself, and I loved the little dog that was always smiling, and the capybara, and like it just made like it was just so happy to see, and like my heart broke. I won't give it the trail. I won't give the ending away, but my heart broke at the end when they were on the when they were using the rope with the boat, and I'm like, oh no, like I love dogs. Yeah, don't make them the villain.
Niko, noted cat person, Niko Stratis. One of the themes in this movie is that is the fear of others. Is the sort of like how do you get to know other people when you are also like maybe afraid of them. The cat does not trust other animals that it meets. It takes time for those relationships to form. How do we see that trust grow without using any dialogue whatsoever?
Classic cat in this movie. I love that when we started talking about flow, I'm at home right now and my dog started barking in the distance as if he was like, I have things to say.
About this movie, yes.
Yeah, about this movie, I am ready to talk. I think they do a really interesting thing with communicating without ever using words, right? Communicating through the body, communicating through body language, and the way that the cat sort of interacts with everybody, you know, the way that it shows fear and hesitation and trepidation, like you get a sense of a wide array of emotions. And you can tell that they really sort of studied animals and the way that animals interact and the way that a cat shows fear. And like, I think my cats hated that I watched this movie because I had to pause it every 10 minutes and go and check on them to be like, are you okay? And they're like, yes, I'm asleep right now. But it was so visceral and so real that you could really feel every emotion that all of these animals are feeling. The capybara, the lemur, the secretary bird, like all of these animals felt very alive and that you could really sense what they were communicating with each other. And they never had to say anything. You know, language would have ruined this movie. And it's not, there's language in it. It's just body language, right? But like words and dialogue would have ruined this movie. And I'm really glad that we can tell a story without ever having to say a word.
I think sometimes we do give maybe too much credence to what words can say when like you can depict a story with so much more if you just show how people, or in this particular case, animals are moving through the world. Rad, I think like something that is notable about this movie is that it's the first Latvian movie to win an Oscar. It has this gigantic underdog narrative considering how it was made. It was made with free software called Blender, along with a $4 million budget and a core team of 20 people. That's pretty wild. And just to kind of put that in perspective, the filmmaker Gins Zilibodis said that it's about 50 times smaller than a Disney production. That's pretty wild. What does this win signal about, the animation industry and how you can succeed in it?
Well, I think it says that you don't have to keep making Minions movies.
Whoa, hold on. He's coming after the Minions movies.
It's like,
not no Minions movies.
Just fewer. Yeah.
But it's like, I mean, I think there's something to be said that this movie cost only $4 million and it made 5 times back in terms of the international box office. And that's exactly what these other $200 million animated movies shoot for. Yeah. And, like when you think of like how this movie succeeds as an independent movie where it doesn't have to hit those, it's not forced on, like there's the narrative beats that a $200 million movie has to hit to be as widely appealing as possible. Yeah. This movie does not have to play that game. And because of that, you could feel the individual artistry of it, right? And the fact that this movie and then the year before Boy and the Heron, the Miyazaki movie, won the Oscars, it's like, hey, I hope Hollywood takes the message. I mean, they're not going to, Pixar is not all of a sudden going to make like watercolor paintings as movies,
which
right?
They would. Yeah.
No, but I wish they would just take some inspiration that, you could make movies with some individual artistry and not as much money.
Yeah. Sonya, you mentioned the idea of like, hey, European movies sometimes get a little artsy. Oh my God, there's no dialogue in this movie. This is the fact that it's a wordless animated movie, just shy of 90 minutes. Do you think kids will enjoy this film? Because I think we think of animated films as specifically made for children. Do you think children will sort of be able to move through a movie like this?
I think it depends. Like, I know some kids who would get really into this movie. I think it might be a little bit too sad in certain parts for like some really young kids because there's still some very scary parts in here, specifically when the cat is like underwater and like she can't, he doesn't. I keep wanting to call the cat a girl, but I looked it up and apparently it's a boy. And like, not to genderize
all cats
the
are
animals.
girls. Everyone knows this. But anyway, yes,
Yeah,
continue.
exactly.
Yeah.
But the cat, like, I just love that. I think kids would really connect to the imagery because again, I am basically like a 2-year-old in a 39-year-old's body, and like that was my initial pain when I was watching it because I'm like, oh, it's gonna be all no dialogue. Oh, but then I was like, the second I saw, like by minute 20, I was like, I'm into this now, and I think it would. I think a lot of kids are gonna like choose another movie, but I think if like a parent put this on, the kid's gonna be like really enamored by like some of the stuff that comes up, and maybe some of the. I think it could be a Bambi for kids because Bambi was never your first choice to put on, but like whenever it came on, you'd be like, wow. This is so good.
Yeah, Bambi, famously everyone's favorite movie to put on. Thanks, Sonya. But if folks are just joining us, my name is Elamin Abdelmahmoud. You listen to Commotion. Niko Stratis is here, Simonpillai is here, and Sonya Ballantyne is here. And we are going to shift gears and talk about something that is maybe the opposite of Flow, because this movie had a gigantic budget. It's based on a popular video game, has a bunch of stars in it. Here's a bit of the trailer.
If we want to save this world, creativity is key to survival.
Now what? Elytra wingsuits. Bye-bye.
Those things work, right?
Absolutely.
I think it probably cost them $4 million just to license the MGMT song. That is a bit of the trailer for Minecraft. That's a movie that stars Jack Black and Jason Momoa. The director is Jared Hess, who made Napoleon Dynamite. Sonya, let's talk about this, because Minecraft is the best-selling video game of all time. What did you think of a movie adaptation of a beloved kids' video game?
Well, I never, my nephews are obsessed with Minecraft, and I remember when they would show it to me, I'd be like, okay, so all you do is like make houses and like blow up sheep and stuff like that. And they were like trying to show me, and I was like figuring out the mining and stuff. And I was just like, I don't know, like this doesn't make any sense. So thankfully in the Minecraft movie, they explained it in the way I was like, oh, this is what the Hambone was talking about.
Yeah.
And so I really liked the movie just because, I was really surprised by how much I liked the movie. I did have to turn off my brain and be like, okay, imagine you're 8 years old and a Minecraft fan. Like, watch it with that idea. And so it was like I really love how anti-capitalist it was in a lot of ways. Mm-hmm. Like, I think it's kind of like disingenuous to have a major studio production be like have some sort of anti-capitalist message, because it seems kind of like how can they be uncapitalist? But I really loved how fun it was. I really love some of the jokes. Like, there was some legit like laugh out loud moments, and like basically every kid I knew every kid that I had to see it at 4 p.m. yesterday, so it was like the first screening. So it was like 95% children at my screening, and like the sort of children who would go to the first screening of Minecraft. You could hear all these kids yelling, "Oh, there's so and so! Oh, that's who!" Like it was like being at the Avengers opening night when I didn't know who Thanos was. Yeah. I was like, I don't know who that is. So,
you're in for a journey then. You're like, everyone's done the homework, and it's just me coming here to find out who these people are. I mean, I gotta say, Niko, the point that Sonya is making about it being surprising that a movie this big would be anti-capitalist, that's a fair point. I mean, you don't spend $200 million in order to, be like, what's bad? Capitalism. You hear Jack Black's character say creativity is key to survival. That's why people play Minecraft, right? Like, the idea is that like you get to build stuff in that world of Minecraft. It's a little bit like Lego, but because in the sense that you're building these big worlds out of blocks. How do you feel about the idea of creativity being at the heart of this movie? Because I feel like there's something about that feels maybe antithetical to being like, also it's a big IP movie at the same time.
Yeah, it is really like my cynical brain and my critical brain are fighting each other, and kind of both of them don't really have a place in a movie like this, because this is not a movie that's asking for critical discourse. This is a movie that's asking for money. It's funny because it is like, it does have this anti-capitalist sort of like lens in it. I can't stop thinking about that scene in the studio, Seth Rogen's Apple TV movie, where they're trying to reverse engineer Barbie to make whatever, I can't remember the movie that they're trying to make.
The Kool-Aid movie.
The Kool-Aid movie. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And so I was like thinking about that the whole time of like, right, this is reverse engineering the Lego movie and the Barbie movie and being like, how do we do that for Minecraft? And it's sort of like, there's an anti-capitalist edge, but it also kind of feels a little bit disingenuous of like, well, you have to have this because you need to be winking the entire time and be like, we didn't really spend $4 million on this, you know? And this idea that it rewards creativity. I mean, the idea with Minecraft is kids are into it because they're telling you stories through it, right? So to take that and to then turn it around and say, okay, here's a story. We have given the avatar of voice, and it's Jack Black, who cannot do anything but Jack Black his way all over every screen he's ever on.
That's
and
the
it kind
job.
of changes it, right? Because you take this idea of, here's a creative outlet where you can tell stories, and it feels like it does a disservice to children's creativity, where it's like, okay, well, now we're going to tell you the story we should be telling you with this medium. It's like, well, no, kids are telling you their own stories. That's why your niece and nephew take you aside and say, look what I built in Minecraft, because they're telling you the story. So to then to say like, well, no, actually there is a proper story and we're going to tell it, I feel like it kind of takes away from that a little bit. And I can't help but think that the entire time of like, this is wrong. Like it's a better movie than it has any right to be. This should be a bad movie, and it's not. So good for it. But at the same time, it's just like, this could be anything. It's kind of nothing the entire time. I'm like, that is a very expensive piece of nothing. And I hope that people go and see it and take something away from it. Because look, I went to see the Street Fighter movie starring Raul Julia in the theater. So what do I know? You know, but it's just one of those things. I'm like, this isn't doing what it wants to be doing. And I don't even know what it really wants to do. I think it just wants to make its money back, so it's not a flop. At the end of the day, you know, it wants to like.
That's job number one. I mean, like that is job number one of a because it's a movie and it's a creative product, but also it is an artistic thing that is trying to make its money back. And like that should not be lost in this conversation. This is a movie made by Warner Brothers. They spent $150 million on this movie. They need it to sell tickets, not just because it was expensive, but also because they've had a couple of box office flops. So Mickey 17, you know, Robert De Niro movie called The Alto Nights. I don't know one person who has seen The Alto Nights or couldn't even like name anyone else in that movie. Rad, is this the kind of box office gold that the Warner Brothers is looking for right now?
Well, sure, and I hate it for that. I mean, like, listen, like, I'm not holding back the way I know Niko did there. Yeah. Like, I think this is where creativity goes to die.
Oh wow,
this is like, you know, I don't, you know, the whole anti-capitalist thing. I mean, I definitely felt it was disingenuous. At the same time, like, look, like my kids came out of this movie like it's a 9 out of 10, right? Which is like maybe
it's not for you.
I know it makes me wonder if I raised them right, but then again, they also love flow, so we clearly, you know, we all contain multitude.
Do they watch Heat?
But the thing is, like you know, with these kids, like I mean, like it's obviously like they love Super Mario Brothers too, and so I'm actually rooting for this movie to get those Super Mario Brothers numbers because you know you address the kind of the stress at Warner Brothers over their box office flops lately, like Joker 2 and Mickey 17, and there's a lot of stress that's coming down on the film executives at Warner Brothers, Michael DeLuca and Pam Amdy, where it's literally like studio style shenanigans that are going on because like Michael DeLuca, Pam Amdy are actual film executives that love movies. I mean, they're the ones who actually greenlit Sarah Polley's Women Talking when they were at MGM. Yeah. And they walked into Warner Brothers 2 years ago and were like, we're going to give hundreds of millions of dollars to Ryan Coogler and Paul Thomas Anderson.
People who
and
make
Maggie
movies.
Yeah, like auteurs. They are auteurs. And yet now, because of these flops and because of this coming lineup, which is the most exciting lineup that Warner Brothers have had in years.
That Paul Thomas Anderson movie, like you saw the trailer. Just from the trailer alone, I'm like, I'm in. I'm completely sold. But it's not the kind of movie that you would normally spend that much amount of money on.
Exactly. And that's why they're under so much heat. And now, so these executives who have spent a fortune on a Paul Thomas Anderson movie, their fortunes are riding on a Minecraft movie? It's so depressing.
But but also it will work, right?
Absolutely.
Because everything that you're kind of saying is that like there is a trade-off of like, okay, you got to make the Minecraft movie.
You have to make the Kool-Aid movie.
You got to make the Kool-Aid movie in order to be able to give Paul Thomas Anderson as much money as he's looking for. Although you've seen some reports say that like they're fighting over Final Cut, they're fighting over the length of it. So like if you're gonna hire an auteur, like you know, actually give them the permission to be themselves. That is obviously part of this conversation.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's this kind of like I'm almost almost like this is the saying in Hollywood where studio executives are like, "Oh, how did I get stuck making a Paul Thomas Anderson movie?" And it's like, well, it's your turn. You don't make Paul Thomas Anderson movies to make money. You make them for the art.
Yeah, you make them because he's the greatest living filmmaker, and Phantom Thread is the best movie made this decade. My name is Elamin Abdelmahmoud. This show is called Commotion. We got one more thing to talk about. Let's hear it.
What would you think if I sang out of tune? Would you stand up and walk out on me?
I gotta say, like, that's really high stakes for a friendship. Like, the idea, like, if you just sing out of tune once, someone just walks out on that friendship. That is, of course, with a little help from my friends by the Beatles. There are 4, not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 movies that are planned about the band. Director Sam Mendes is doing all of them. They're supposed to come out at the same time in April of 2028. This week, we actually found out the people who will be playing the Fab Four. You got Paul Mescal playing Paul McCartney. Harris Dickinson is going to be John Lennon. Barry Keoghan is going to be Ringo Starr. And then Joseph Quinn is George Harrison. I just want to go around the table and get a quick reaction from each of you. How do you feel about the casting? How do you feel about this concept? Sonya, you first. Are you all in on a Ringo movie? Is that the kind of person you are? Tell me.
I am all in for a George Harrison movie just because I have a crush on Joe Quinn. I was just like, and Joe Quinn, I was like excited about because George Harrison is looking down from the spirit world and being like, yes, I like that. Like, that is me. And Sabrina Carpenter's boyfriend as Ringo is kind of cool.
That's Oscar nominee Barry Keoghan to you, but I like that he's Sabrina Carpenter's ex-boyfriend. Yes, continue.
But I was really excited to see, like, I'm really, you say Sam Mendes is the one directing, so I was, like, kind of nervous about, like, 4 films. I'm like, is this kind of like the Lord of the Rings, the Beatles edition? Like, is every era going to be accounted for? Because I thought it would be cool to have them, like, if it were me, like, and God willing, I will be like Sam Mendes one day. But like, I am hoping that it's like it would probably be like 4 perspectives of the same event, like maybe Ed Sullivan or something. But I think it would be cool if it was like 4 perspectives of them at different times of their careers. Because I think that would be cool. Like, especially if it's like Ringo's at the time of like Abbey Road and stuff like that, when things were going really badly, or John's relationship with Yoko, even though I know people will be all like, no more Yoko. But like, I really find it's compelling just because, like, I'm excited for it, but I'm also like hesitant because I'm like, how much more stories can we tell about like 4 guys from the 60s? I don't know. It feels like Beatles fans are dying, so we have to make new Beatles fans. But I say that, but I bought Beatles Rock Band, so I'm like, I'm gonna be there first day probably.
Sonya, the phrase "how many more movies about 4 guys from the 60s" is gonna stick around with me. So we're not talking about the Beatles here, but to your point, Rad, we've had a lot of Beatles stories, over time. When you hear about this concept and this casting, what's your reaction?
I was angry.
Okay. Cool. Love a rational reaction.
I was angry because these are like my 4 favorite white guys in Hollywood right now. And they're going to be tied
together. It's just to be your Avengers.
No, I mean, they could be making so many interesting movies, and now they're tied up to make 4 Beatles movies for Sam Navel-Gazing Mendes.
Wow.
Who feels like he thinks so much of his talent that he figures he has 4 Beatles stories in him, and he's going to tie up my time and these 4 actors with this stuff. I'm so upset.
I'll tell you what we're not going to do at this table is pretend that Sam Mendes doesn't know how to direct a movie. That's the one thing I cannot
Look, one of these guys has to go make James Bond. He just tied that up.
He already made 2 of them. So I cannot abide the notion that Sam Mendes is not an accomplished director who's made 2 excellent, by the way, James Bonds. Are you not?
Yes.
Wow, Skyfall?
Skyfall.
You don't like Okay, I can't live like this. He made 1917. That was an excellent.
Which is awful.
Okay, I can't. This is what happens when Rad and I get in a room. Like, I just name a movie I liked, and he goes, "No, that was bad. Stop with your opinion." Niko. First, yes. I know that if you were to make a movie, a series of movies about a bunch of actors in the same band, a bunch of people in the same band, you would make I presume, multiple movies about the members of Sleater-Kinney. I assume that's what you would do. But
that's a good movie.
That would actually be a great movie.
Hollywood.
This is neither here nor there, though. I want to get your reaction to this treatment of the Beatles. The idea that there's going to be 4 separate movies, but also this casting. I think it's a pretty good casting.
My immediate thought is, who cares?
Okay. Love that.
To rebuke Rad a little bit, I really hope that Hollywood finds it within themselves to find 4 other white guys.
This is it. This is all we have capacity for.
Heaven knows we're in a dearth of 4 guys who look mostly the same. When I saw the announcement and I looked at the lineup and I was like, that's just the same guy. And also, who cares? It's the Beatles. We know the story. I'm very curious what they're going to do. Like, most likely, they're not really going to hit on the harder stuff that all of them have on their backstory. The movie I'm honestly the most interested in is probably the Ringo movie. Just because Ringo is the weirdest guy in the Beatles. He's like, guys, I wrote a song about a yellow submarine, and they're like, sure, we'll put it on.
Thank you, Ringo, for your contributions.
I'm a long time Paul McCartney head. I want the whole movie to be about him writing temporary secretary.
Me too. Yeah.
But at the same time, it is very much a who cares kind of thing because it is just such an overwrought, overdone story. And we kind of don't need this. I'm done with this whole era of the biopic where now we've gone to the worst degree of it of we're making 4 movies about the Beatles. Well, you shouldn't. You should make half of one. Or you should do a documentary. Or you should do something interesting. Do an I'm Not There with the Beatles.
Do an I'm Not There with the Beatles. That's a good treatment. I would buy that.
I love the I'm Not There treatment because it asks you to imagine that artists move through eras and there are different people in those eras. And I'm Not There is the only movie that ever understood that, right? And I'm give me that with the Beatles. That would be interesting. But otherwise, we already have the best interpretation of the Beatles, and it was in the Dewey Cox movie.
First of all, Dewey Cox movie, great movie. Second of all, our producer, Stuart Berman, has immediately sent a message as we're having this conversation to say, I know that you're attributing Yellow Submarine to Ringo because what a preposterous song. Unfortunately, that is a Lennon-McCartney song. It's a Lennon.
Stuart, I'm so sorry.
It is in fact the A lineup of writers in the Beatles who wrote Yellow Submarine.
He's Octopus's Garden. I screwed up. It's really
Octopus's
early.
Garden. That's true. It's okay. We will let it go. But also, I think that there's something to be said about, have we reckoned enough with what the Beatles have given us? I think overwhelmingly what I'm hearing around the table is,
we have.
Yeah, I think we got it. You know what I mean? Who's next? Can we do a Bikini Kill series of movies? You know what I mean? Where is that? And Niko, that's your job. You got to write that.
Hollywood, call me. Call me. I will do the 25 series Riot Girl movie.
It's time. Let's go. Okay. One last thing. I want each of you to tell me something that you love right now. A book, a movie, music, anything. We got about 2 minutes for this. Niko, you first.
Speaking of people that passed away, we just learned that the outside folk artist Michael Hurley passed away. He was 83 years old. And so I've been revisiting a lot of Michael Hurley's stuff. A really beautiful artist. If I had to give you a song, I would say go find the song Wildegeeses from the album Idacon Snock from 2009. A brilliant, beautiful artist that was inspiration for a lot of people. And he just passed away. So Michael Hurley.
Thanks for that recommendation. Lovely. Sonya, over to you.
Well, I have, for music, it would probably be Franz Ferdinand's new album, The Human Fear. I saw them in Vancouver 2 weeks ago, on their second night of their their 2-night show in Vancouver, where during the encore, they made everybody get on the floor. And I was like, why are you doing this to your geriatric millennial audience? My feet are hurting. Anyway, but for TV, Interview with the Vampire, right now they are filming their season 3, but if you haven't seen it, it is a really compelling show that if you've seen the movie, it is not anything like the movie. It goes there. And so it has a lot of really great performances and it's really wonderful.
Love that.
And for books, I'm reading Bad Creep by Jessica Johns, I believe her name is.
Yeah,
it's
great book.
A horror native novel about a girl who is being plagued by dreams that force her to go back to her reserve. And it's been really creepy, so I've been really liking it. So it's a little bit of a slow burn, but once you get past that, it's pretty fun.
Okay, Rad, over to you, pal. You got 30 seconds. Go.
So I'm going to recommend you check out a nice little movie called A Nice Indian, A Nice Indian Boy. A Nice Indian Boy, which is my big fat Greek wedding with some Bollywood flavors. And I think, as familiar as that sound, I think this movie does bring some interesting nuances to the way it depicts relationships. But also, it's got Jonathan Groff singing Hindi, channeling his inner Shah Rukh Khan. And it also has it has the girl from the Turn Down for What video, who I love. So
What I love about Rad is that he will just like bring this historic knowledge in these moments. He'll go like, you know who was in Honey? You know who was in Step Up to the Streets? And like that, he just carries that knowledge around with him. I thank all of you for being here. You guys are a delight. Thank you so much for your time and for your company. Thanks again.
Thanks for having us.
Yes, of course.
you.
Talk to you soon. Niko Stratis writes the newsletter Anxiety Shark and is the author of the upcoming book The Dad Rock That Made Me a Woman. Rad Simonpillai is a freelance film critic based in Toronto, and Sonya Ballantyne is a filmmaker based in Winnipeg. That is it for the podcast today. Commotion was produced by Stuart Berman, Ty Callender, Jane Van Couverden, and Jess Lowe. Our digital producers are Carla Antonio, Amelia Ekbal, Shuli Grossman-Gray, and Julia Whalen. Our director is Gene Kim. Our engineers this week are Gabby Hagorilis and Sam Hashmi. Daniel Grogan is our senior producer. Our executive producer is Beza Seifa. Me, I'm Elamin Abdelmahmoud. This show is called Commotion. We will see you on Monday.